Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my shotgun shack in the Texas Outback. So today I'm talking about government corruption. Don't. So, if you've ever hung around the campfire with a bunch of Gen Xers, then you've probably heard this conversation turn eventually around to, hey, you know the government's corrupt, right? Like, it's just totally corrupt. It's so corrupt. The government's completely corrupted. But I've never heard anybody explain in detail how government corruption actually works. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how government corruption actually works. All right, so let's start with the mystery. The mystery is, how come government employees, also known as the deep state, along with congressmen, senators, and even presidents and members of his cabinet, all come into office as paupers and leave as millionaires? Are we overpaying them? How is this happening? It's a documented fact that these people who hold office for any period of time at all come out the other end wealthy. And they continue to get paid for appearances and to give speeches. And it's all just a bit fishy. I mean, don't you think that if I got a gig and I went to that gig and I got paid, say, $100,000 a year for 5 years, I will have made $500,000. My bottom line should reflect that, right? But the way it works for the deep state is you make $100,000 a year, but then you make $600,000 a year in investments that pay off. It's just like fishy, right? It's totally fishy. It's completely and totally, not the way the rest of the world works. So we start with this mystery. Let's work backwards from there. So we've all been aware of this. I think the first person to really lay it out and slap you upside the face and go, "Wake up, America," for me was George Carlin, the comedian. He would tell you how corrupt it is. But even he never really explained in detail how it worked. So, money makes the world go round, they say. Or is it love? Or is it the love of money? No, that's the root of all evil. Well, let's look at how government corruption works. Well, so our CIA, which is supposed to be looking out for America's best interests and making sure that there isn't some plot against the United States that we don't know about, right? But what they're really doing is using covert operations to destabilize governments, right? And create civil unrest, to create revolutions, to create political upheavals and controversies, to cause political assassinations, to bring about instability. Because if a government and a country is in crisis and America comes to the rescue, well, who would blame us if we took a little chunk for ourselves, right? I mean, we are helping these people, right? So it's done in the guise of looking out for American commerce, but really it's just a license to steal. So here's how it works. Either we go in and we tear a country down till rubble, like we did in Afghanistan and Iraq, or, we go into a country that's already in turmoil and tearing itself apart, like Ukraine, okay? And we offer to help them. We're going to give you, now this is taxpayer money, so let this sink in before you start thinking different. This is taxpayer money. We're going to give you taxpayer money, Ukraine, so that you can rebuild your destroyed infrastructure and that you can build an army to defend yourself. So we're going to give you Javelin anti-tank missiles. We're going to actually not give them to them. We're going to sell them to you. So that makes the military-industrial complex happy because they get to sell a bunch of missiles. All right, check number one. Okay. The extra branch of government, as it were. And so then maybe the next thing is we're going to pay for you to have a new airport as a gift. We're going to give you a grant, right? We're going to give you aid. We're going to give you aid, right? Foreign aid. And with that, you're going to build this new hospital, right? But hey, over here, see this construction company from the United States over here? Yeah, these are the guys that you have to use to build the hospital with. And then the reason that you even chose them, and even telling the other government that they need to use this construction company, is because previously back up, burp, 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 back in time. You already went to that corporation. You already went to that big construction company or that big natural gas company, right? And you said, hey, you want this contract to build this hospital, or you want this contract to suck all this gas out of this, newly discovered gas field in Ukraine? Then you need to put my kid on the board over there. And let's see, give him a salary of, I don't know, $500,000 a year. Let's say $500,000. That's fair, right? And then I have this little secret bank account over in the Cayman Islands, and you should probably make a cash deposit over there of, I don't know, $50,000. And then, of course, it wouldn't hurt if you made a little donation to my campaign as well. All legal and above board, of course. Right? And this has been going on for a long time. So you basically get the money from the corporations, right? And then they get to acquire this aid money that's coming into this other country, and it's just almost like government assistance. And the people that are paying it is the middle class. Welcome to world politics. You're paying American construction companies to build hospitals and airports and armies in foreign countries that we had a hand in destroying in the first place. Ding, ding, ding. Are you awake yet? So this is how government corruption actually works. Now, why is America in such a political turmoil right now? Come on, man. Step back, smell the coffee, right? Take a look at the big picture. Try to see the forest for the trees, as it were. What's one of the main things that Donald Trump ran for as president of the United States? He ran under a platform of, are you ready? Drain the swamp, drain the swamp, drain the swamp. Well, what does he mean? He's talking about corruption. In fact, they call it corruption because it's like rust. You get a little spot over here and then it just spreads. The longer you're exposed to the corruption, the more corrupted you become. So, what makes more sense here? That a person who got elected on a anti-corruption platform is trying to investigate corruption in the government, right? Is that more believable? Or is it more believable that this new statesman just coming into this swamp is suddenly corrupt to begin with? That he's corrupt already? Who would benefit from saying that the anti-corruption president is corrupt? Come on, guys, let's use our high school cafeteria senses here to read between the lines. You got to read between the lines, all right? What's going on here is the corrupted people in government are scared to death of Donald Trump, and that's why they're trying to impeach him. So if you want to know who the corrupt people are, they're the ones screaming, he's corrupt, Trump's corrupt, Trump's corrupt, see, look at Russia, look at WikiLeaks, see, look at this porn star, see, look at the PP-gate, see, look. Those are the ones who were corrupt. Duh, didn't you go to high school? Didn't you meet a 14-year-old girl? Because that's the way these criminals think. They think like high school girls. They divert the attention to somebody else. If they're having an affair with one of the teacher's aides, right, then they're going to make up a rumor about somebody else who's having an affair with some different person and make a big deal about it. And then it's the spirit of Jezebel. It's the spirit of control. It's Trump derangement syndrome. Thank you very much. This is what we're dealing with. You got it? Jezebel. So, back to what I was saying. What's more believable? That the anti-corruption president is corrupt, or that maybe could it be that these corrupt people in the government, these swamp creatures, these monsters, these creatures of the Black Lagoon, is it possible that these creatures who have been in this slimy, miring pit of slime are corrupted, and they're afraid of the anti-corruption president? You think old Sage is on to something? You think old Sage maybe he's hitting on all 8 this morning, huh? What do you think? See, it doesn't make sense to me that Donald Trump could come in and then within 2 years of his presidency become totally corrupt. Well, they were yelling corruption before he took office. He went to a great deal of trouble to do the best he could coming in to get himself away from anything that might even look like corruption. So he refused his own salary. Donald Trump is donating his salary back to the Treasury, for the running of the country. So he's working up there for free. Some people say he's already lost millions, if not billions of dollars, because even though the people he turned his business over to are adequate businessmen, they're no Donald Trumps. And that he's losing money, that he's all this time he's spending chasing corruption and trying to negotiate better trade deals, and all the time he's spending defending himself against attack, he could have been using to make money. Use your noodle, put on your thinking cap. Who's the corrupt one? The one that gives up his business, his time, exposes his family to ridicule, drops everything he's doing to run for president? Is he the corrupt one? Or these slimy creatures like Pelosi and Schiff and all of these communists and socialists that want to overthrow our government? Aren't they the ones that hate Donald Trump because he's trying to stop them? That he ran on a platform of anti-corruption? Tell me what you think. I mean, seriously. It just makes sense unless your hat's on crooked. Because, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just gotta, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. Right? Follow the money. Follow the money. Who's losing money? Who's been making money? So, the State Department, ambassadors especially, are corrupted. They take money from both sides. They'll take a little money or help or bribe from the local, the government of the country they're assigned to, right, to get them special hearings and get them more money. They're advocates for them to get aid, and so they treat them really good. There is a lot of parties and social events and dinners and a lot of schmoozing going on to get these ambassadors to bring more aid to their country. And then once the aid is approved, then the ambassador working with the State Department also gets to do a little business right on up to the VP, maybe the president himself, get to do a little business with the with the construction companies and the natural gas companies and the oil companies, right? And the mineral companies. They're after gold, diamonds, oil, timber, natural gas, whatever, okay? Whatever's paying. So the corruption is about money, and it's clear who has the most to lose. So I don't believe a word that Schiff says. I don't believe Trump colluded with Russia. I don't believe Trump did anything wrong in this whole wide world concerning any of these accusations, except one mistake that Donald Trump made. He told him he was coming for him. He told Hillary Clinton, if I was president, you'd be going to prison. He had them chanting, drain the swamp, drain the swamp. And the alligators started sharpening their teeth, right? And the water moccasins started doing their extra workout in the morning so that they're super fast in the water and they can run up and bite you. And they readied their attack. Even before he was president, they were working on the insurance policy. The deep state, Obama's administration. Now, before I make this a Republican-Democrat thing, let's be perfectly clear. This kind of corruption has been going on since the beginning of America. This kind of corruption has been going on since the beginning of time. That this is how political, governmental corruption works. It doesn't take a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. All you have to do is open your eyes and see things not from a he said, she said perspective, but from the big picture. Who's more likely to be corrupt? The people that are in the swamp, or the one who's proclaiming to come dig them out and haul them before the sunlight and show them off to the whole world for the corrupt creatures that they are? This impeachment is nothing but a kangaroo court. They're literally accusing him of the thing they've been caught doing. And that's kind of how they work, I call this goat behavior. If you've seen my sheep and goats analogy, and I'm starting to work more and more on that, I'm going to bring some more videos pertaining to that out, then you know that there's a certain set of almost demonic behaviors that these people on every side, there's a division between good and evil happening. And if you're on the evil side, you start to show exhibit these evil tendencies and behaviors. And one of them is to accuse someone else of the exact thing you're doing. Just like my 14-year-old girl analogy, the high school girl who blames another girl and starts a rumor about her to deflect away the attention. Okay? So, Biden was doing this little bit that they all do. If you want the natural gas, you got to go through me, and if you want my approval, you got to take care of my kid. And when he was under investigation, when his son became under investigation for the shenanigans they were pulling in Ukraine, Vice President of the United States used his authority and power to withhold funds from the Ukraine under the threat that they needed to get rid of this prosecutor so that it would end this investigation. Now they're trying to tell you the swamp voices coming from CNN, the swamp creatures' mouthpieces, they're little speakers above the swamp that tell you what's going on down in the swamp, right? They're telling you, okay, so no, it's the other way around. The prosecutor was corrupt and Biden was just making sure they got rid of that corrupt prosecutor. But never mind, don't pay attention to the fact that that corrupt prosecutor was actually actively investigating Biden's son for corruption. They do something or they're guilty of something, then they flip it around and they blame their accusers of the very thing they're being accused of. And it's a sick behavior. It's goat behavior. It's very much cultish, what's the word I'm looking for? Groupthink behavior, right? It's herd behavior. They're all acting the same way. So, what makes more sense to you? The crusader against corruption is actually really the corruptest one of all? Or he's being accused of corruption because he's shaking things up. He's draining the swamp. He's pulling alligators out and ripping their tails off. He's hanging these water moccasins up and making soup out of them and belts out of their hides. You understand? He is draining the swamp, and this is the backlash. You want to know who the corrupt ones are? They're the ones yelling, down with Donald Trump. They're the ones yelling, impeach the president. They're the ones saying, we're going to impeach the mother effer to their 9-year-old child in the front of an audience and on film. They're the corrupt ones. They're afraid for their existence. And the big question is, are we going to back this president? Or are we going to let the swamp creatures drag him to the bottom and consume him? Are we going to let this kangaroo court convict him of a crime he didn't commit without any evidence based only on hearsay? Or are you going to make yourself heard? Are you going to stand up for your rights? Are you going to use your rights before you lose your rights? Do you have a backbone, or are you just a sheeple? Are you a shepherd, a sheep, or are you one of them goats? You know who you are, and if you talk on this comment section and you start talking goat talk, you'll stick out like a sore thumb. Because we're God's sheep around here, but we only answer to God. And sometimes, let me end with a cute little story. I was watching, a lot of people think sheep are completely helpless. They're not. They're just obedient and meek. They follow the instruction of the shepherd because they know the shepherd is looking out for them. But a ram sheep is a dangerous beast. You wouldn't think it, but I was at a auction sale, where there's an auction ring and they run the animals in one door and they run them in circles and they go back out the other door and you bid on them and then they weigh them and you buy them by the pound or you buy them by the head, and it's a big fun thing. It's like an auction sale, but for critters. And they were selling sheep one day. And they brought in this big ram, and his horns come out and went all the way around. And he looked like the ram on the Ram truck. He looked like Ram Bro. He looked like, he was tough, like the L.A. Rams ram. Are they even in L.A. anymore? I don't know. I'm not a sports fan. But this ram comes strutting out there. And he did really good, and they were bidding on him, and he brought a good amount of money, but he wouldn't go back in the gate and leave. He was like, I like it here. I'm hanging out here. And the guy come out there with cracked a little whip, and they're like, hey, go back in there, Ram. And he put his head down. Well, I don't think so. And then he did the doggonest thing I've never seen in my whole life. He jumped straight up like this and over this 8-foot plexiglass protective thing like at a hockey game, right? Jumps right over this thing into the stands full of people. And guys are being flown everywhere. He's butting this one. He's butting that one. People are climbing over each other. It's a great big panic. I'm kind of on the other side of another divider, and I figure he isn't going to get over there to me before they get hold of him. So I can't help it. I'm just laughing like crazy. There's about to be a sheep rising up in here. There's about to be a sheep uprising. Us rams aren't happy. We are not going to sit by and watch you wolves run through our herd. And if the shepherds won't do something, well, we might just have to do something ourselves. And you know, there's a lot of shepherds that are sidelined right now, and they may decide to intervene. You know, this country was created in a revolution. And it was created when the people stood up and said, we want a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But this government now is corrupt, like rust or cancer, like fungus in a potato bucket. These people are like a disease. They're like a virus. And they're killing not just our country, but the world. They're raping other nations for their... Look what they do to Iraq and Afghanistan. We went in there and bombed them back to the Stone Age, and then we brought in all these foreign American construction companies to rebuild it, and you think that's great, that's making money, but they're doing it on purpose. They're destroying it just so they can rebuild it, so they can take money both ways as they're destroying it and as they're rebuilding it. It's criminal. You know, this is why other countries hate us, because they think that's who we are, because we let our leaders do this. We let our leaders engage in this criminal behavior. It's like the worst kind of theft ever invented. Political corruption is the most awful thing ever, and everyone just ignores it and accepts it like it's just a part of living. Well, I'm unafraid to talk about political corruption. I'm going to speak out and use my First Amendment right to speak out about political corruption. Donald J. Trump is being accused of something they themselves are actually doing, and he did not do it. It's frame up. What are we going to do? Are we going to stand by and take it, or are we going to stand up and say something? God save our republic. God help us. We need him more now than ever. Jesus is coming back. Get right with God. He's coming back soon. Just deal with it.